So, have you ever stopped to think about how history actually gets written? I mean, not just the dates and facts, but the stories we tell about what happened. Today, we're diving into a really powerful idea called New Historicism. Think of it as a special pair of glasses that lets you see the hidden machinery of power behind every story, from a dusty old spy report all the way to the plays of Shakespeare. And our journey starts with this really cryptic line from a 16th century police report. You've got a spy claiming that the famous playwright Christopher Marlowe said Moses was just a magician, and that some guy named Harriet could do even better tricks. I mean, wow. This one little sentence hints at a super dangerous secret. What if the people in charge don't just enforce belief, but what if they actually manufacture it to stay in power? And that leads us to this wild paradox we're going to explore, right? We usually think that if you challenge authority, you weaken it. But what if the exact opposite is true? What if power doesn't just survive being challenged, but it actually uses those challenges to tighten its grip? To get our heads around this, we need to follow that guy mentioned in the spy report, Thomas Harriot. He's about to go on a trip to the New World and run this fascinating real-world experiment in power, using what the literary thinker Stephen Greenblatt would later call invisible bullets. Okay, so picture this. It's 1588. Harriet, who's this brilliant mathematician, lands in Virginia. Now, his official job is to map out the land and document the people for his boss, Sir Walter Raleigh. But he's got a side hustle going on. He's not just observing, he's learning the Algonquian language, getting inside their heads, all to test this radical theory he has about how power works. And you have to see the stuff he brought with him. To the English, sure, these were just tools. But to the Algonquians, who'd never seen anything like them, they seemed like magic. Harriet even wrote that the native people thought these things were rather the works of gods than of men. You see, he wasn't just carrying tools, he was carrying tools of awe. And this is the absolute key. Harriet realized he was in this totally unique spot. He could test this really subversive Machiavellian idea that was kicking around Europe at the time. The idea that religion itself was just a human invention, a political tool made to keep people in line. So this wasn't just an encounter, it was an experiment. So Stephen Greenblatt breaks down Harriet's method into 3 brilliant steps. First, you test your godlike tech on the local population. Next, you record their reactions, their awe, their confusion, their fear, especially when European diseases they'd never seen before started spreading. And finally, the masterstroke. You explain all this, not as a random tragedy, but as proof of your God's power, a God who rewards his followers and punishes his enemies. They were literally manufacturing power on the spot. Now, this whole powerful way of looking at Harriet's report comes from an approach called New Historicism, and the main guy behind it is the literary scholar Stephen Greenblatt. To really get it, we need to understand the toolkit he's working with. And the ideas we're digging into today come straight from Greenblatt's groundbreaking work, especially his essays Invisible Bullets and Resonance in Wonder. These are the texts that give us the tools to see history in a completely different light. So what exactly is New Historicism? Well, at its core, it's the idea that you just can't separate a piece of writing from the historical moment that made it. It means Harriet's journal isn't just a dry scientific report. No, it's a story, and it's buzzing with all the power struggles and anxieties of Elizabethan England. Just like a Shakespeare play, just like that spy report we started with. It's all a narrative shaped by its time. Okay, now we get to the real engine of New Historicism and the answer to that paradox we started with. Get ready for the dynamic duo, subversion and containment. Think of it like this. Subversion is any idea that threatens the system, right? Like Marlowe saying religion is just a magic trick. Containment is how the system deals with that threat. But here's the crazy part. It doesn't just crush it, it absorbs it. It manages it. And in doing so, it actually makes itself stronger. Power doesn't just fear challenges, it actually produces them so it can show everyone how good it is at putting them down. And this brings us right back to our mind-bending paradox. Harriet goes out and proves the subversive idea that religion can be used as a tool for control by actually successfully using it to control the Algonquians. The challenge to authority becomes the very proof of its power. The subversion is perfectly contained. It's brilliant. And this whole dynamic, it wasn't just happening out in the colonies. Greenblatt saw this exact same playbook of subversion and containment playing out on the most famous stages in the world, right in Elizabethan England. And this is where it gets really, really cool. Greenblatt realized this whole performance of power wasn't just in Harriet's report from a distant land. It was happening in the plays of William Shakespeare. For Greenblatt, the theater was just another kind of laboratory, a stage for testing and showing off the exact same mechanics of power. Let's take Prince Hal, the guy who becomes King Henry V. In the play Henry IV, we see him hanging out in taverns with criminals and lowlifes. Now, on the surface, this looks like total subversion, a prince ditching his royal duties. But Hal lets us in on his secret plan. He's intentionally making everyone think he's a lost cause, so that when he finally cleans up his act and becomes a great king, his transformation will look even more amazing, and his power will feel that much more deserved.
Hal's time in the taverns is just a performance of rebellion. It's his version of Harriet's experiment. He even brags that he can drink with any tinker in his own language. It's the same move. Just like Harriet made a glossary of the Algonquian language to better understand and control them, Hal masters the language of the underclass to ultimately rule over them. He records the alien world in order to contain it.
So what does this all add up to? From a mathematician in Virginia to a future king on a London stage, New Historicism shows us this incredible pattern. And that leads us to its biggest, most profound conclusion. So here it is, the main takeaway. New Historicism says there's no such thing as a single objective history with a capital H. Nope, there are only histories, plural, a whole collection of competing stories, and every single one is a construction, told from a certain point of view and shaped by the power dynamics of its time. The goal, then, isn't to find the one true story. The goal is to ask, who built this story and why? But that kind of raises a question, doesn't it? If these stories are just products of their time, why do they still feel so powerful to us today? Greenblatt has these two beautiful ideas to explain this: resonance and wonder. Resonance is how a story is plugged into its own specific time and place. You know, the fear of rebellion in Shakespeare's plays, the anxiety about colonization in Harriet's report. That's resonance. It echoes its own world. But then you've got wonder. That's the spark. That's the jaw-dropping beauty and genius that makes a Shakespeare play feel alive and electric 400 years later. It's the magic that seems to jump across time. And for Greenblatt, a truly great work of art has both. It's totally locked into its historical moment, but it still speaks to something universal and timeless in all of us. And all of this leaves us with one last massive question. New Historicism gives us the tools to see how the stories of the past were put together. The challenge for us now is to use those same tools on the world we live in. So, who's writing the story of today? And maybe more importantly, whose voices are being contained while they do it?